Happy Monday as I'm hitting the record button. We are back with part two of our read of the Land of Mist. Is it the Land of Mist or Land of Mist? We had gone through I don't know if we got to halfway or so, but I decided to call it quits in the last stream before we really dug into some of these other things because I didn't want to give it short shrift, and I felt like, well, I knew I was running out of time. I think we stopped right around at the underwater adventuring thing, which we had a couple of diversions talking about this. So this some good discussion. Uh, I think when I was talking about it, I think one of the comments which I did a short about, kind of responding to, this idea like, oh, so the fighter has to switch a weapon, right? Oh, so there's whatever, they got to switch weapons, like kind of like, yeah, it's not a big deal, or nobody should complain or whatever. And I agree with that. I totally think that. I think something that's always annoyed me sometimes with the community around certain games is when folks get caught up in like, but I did all my training around this weapon. Now, if you take it away from me or I can't use it, suddenly I'm nothing. And I felt like it's kind of when you think of specialization in terms of skills or character building in general, it can lead down these pathways where in someone increasingly trying to optimize the last bit of their character narrows down their focus so much that unless they can do the thing that they absolutely built to do, then they feel like either literally they can do nothing because that's how they built it, or they feel like they can do nothing. That's not really what I was talking about with underwater adventures. What was more trying to say, and maybe I said it wrongly, maybe I'm saying it wrongly now, is that underwater is probably the most alien environment that your players are probably going to experience, because even if you go to other planes and whatever else, they generally follow the kind of things that we're used to in terms of all our abilities tend to work. Things work kind of as expected. There might be a wrinkle here or there, but you got some kind of breathable thing you can do. You're generally going to have gravity working the way it is. All your spells, all your things are generally going to work. Maybe one of those things will be off. Like, okay, you're in this elemental plane of, I don't know, you're in the ethereal plane. So sure, gravity is off, but that's kind of true of everything. And other than that, okay, you just have that one variable. Underwater kind of does a lot of variables at once, which makes it really challenging, which I think is part of the terror, part of the thing that makes water so primal for us in our real lives. The fact that it challenges so much about how we do things otherwise that we can't do or must do in a very different way because underwater, and also in the game, that makes it very challenging. And it's hard just to, I think, to say, hey, just be underwater for a whole length of time if that's not the game kind of thing. Hey, Terrence, certain quote unquote unnamed quote unquote games. Yeah, something like that. Anyhow, and it was funny because I was thinking about it. I don't know if they actually mean that when they say underwater adventuring. I don't even know that this game really is trying to deliver something like you're going to spend sessions and sessions and sessions underwater, essentially. That's probably not what they're getting at, but that was kind of where my mind went. All right, so let's see what they do have for underwater adventuring. So they have a sequence of play, which I'm not sure if this is supposed to be special to underwater, but we'll just take what we have it. So we have a sequence of plays, wandering monsters. Okay, that's fine. Actions, great. Scribe, great. End of turn, great. Okay, I don't know, that seems to be fairly standard. So for breathing, they say non-aquatic creatures require aid to breathe underwater, and time records should be kept to track their duration. Always keep your time records. I'm not going to quote the famous quote, but just all the time, keeping track of time is vitally important everywhere. Creature will drown in less than one turn and begins to suffer after 20 rounds. So remember, when they mean turn, they're talking 10 minutes. So in less than 10 minutes, someone will drown, which makes sense. Not a combat turn, but more like an exploration turn. Combat armor. Non-aquatic creatures wearing armor heavier than leather will sink at a rate of 120 feet per turn and cannot ascend without removing it. Ooh, you're going straight to the bottom. Down to Davy Jones's locker. Missile damage is halved. Non-magical fire damage is negated. Okay, but we are saying at least we're wondering about magic fire, like how does fireball interact with the water? Apparently that will work okay, but forget non-magical fire. Okay, non-aquatic creatures get a -2 penalty to attack rolls. Unarmed attacks, damage is halved. Weapons, cutting, slashing, or blunt attacks are ineffective. Thrusting or piercing attacks must be used. Axes, clubs, maces, hammers, slings, and similar weapons do no damage. I might have given them half damage, right? Think? I mean, people have punched away Though maybe they would say a punch is, I guess, a thrusting attack. All right, that's fine. I think. I mean, I'm kind of thinking these settings are maybe not even as tough as I think some GMs, some referees might play it. So distance, okay, we're using feet for distance. You got 3-dimensional movement. Half. Basically, we're saying that swimming speed is half your regular speed, movement speed, unless you're aquatic, and then non-aquatic creatures cannot travel below 1,000 feet without aid. Which I don't know if that'll be important or not, but I suppose it is if you're sinking at a rate of 120 feet per turn. Though that will still take you quite a. You got some time. I think they must mean per. They mean per round or per turn. That means you're only going 12 feet per round. Well, I get. What are we doing? 10? Are we doing 6 rounds per turn? 10 rounds per turn? Or sorry, I'm thinking. I mean, if this is per 10 minutes, that's 12 feet a minute. That seems to be. It's got to be. I have to think they mean per round. I'm not sure. Somebody let me know. I don't even know what makes sense. How fast does like a weight tend to sink? I tend to think they go down pretty darn fast, but maybe 120 feet, if it was per round, would be too much. Because then you could never grab anybody sinking. And maybe in real life you can't. I would just think in a kind of heroic thing, you always want to have that bit where somebody's sinking away and someone's able to do that reach down and grab them. Not in this game. Evasion. All right. Interesting that some of these seem to be kind of general rules, but they have them for underwater. I mean, it's not that it's bad to reinforce, but I mean, I wouldn't imagine I would need separate evasion rules and just sequence rules for underwater. The only thing that you might want to remember with evasion, or just is the 360-degree movement, that you can kind of up and around things, right? It's not like and this I think is one of the big challenges for these kinds of things, is that keeping that in mind. It's not like you're not on a 2-dimensional plane. So it's not just, oh, if there's some coral, I can kind of get behind the coral. It's like, well, the thing could probably just swim over the coral. Or they could be above you, in which case the coral doesn't really give you anything at all. Like, it's situational. Terrence says maybe they're doing the rare 1-minute turn. Yeah, maybe it could be the rare 1-minute turn. It's an endangered species. Losing direction, non-aquatic creatures, unless accompanied by an aquatic creature. Non-aquatic creatures have a 1 in 6 chance of losing direction each turn. Okay, in open space underwater. I would probably give it more than that. I mean, I'm not an expert diver, but I have 30-ish, 30 to 40 dives under my belt, and it's disconcerting. It's underwater movement, underwater, especially. I imagine and I haven't really dove in open water much. I think it's very easy to get turned around. I think even if it's not that deep, just the way features can look very similar or just the same, and you're, especially if you're maybe not in view of a coastline to get a bearing. I think that's actually pretty generous. So, okay, a mapping is ineffective using standard land-based materials. Yeah. I see. I think right. They physically, how can you map if you can't pull out your pen and your quill, ink, whatever, and parchment underwater? That's not going to work out. Resting, got to rest for 1 turn every hour. I don't know why they're putting this non-aquatic in there, because that's just your norm. It's almost like they're making aquatic creatures more. I would see this is one again. I would probably say that the frequency of rest, if you're non-aquatic, would mean that you have to rest twice every hour, maybe once every 3 turns. The reason being is just swimming. I can walk for ages. I can't swim for ages. And I would say that, relatively speaking, unless you're a trained swimmer, that whatever you can do, you're going to be at least half as effective doing it underwater, including moving. Penalty for not resting. Right, we got that. When ascending, non-aquatic creatures must rest every other turn when ascending. So they say this is the bends, right? So if you go up too quickly, you're going to start suffering damage. There's not really, it's one of those things, like, it's I don't know how you actually do that. Like, that's a great line. Maybe this is where I would bring too much scuba stuff in. When you're doing scuba diving, and I imagine if you're free diving or something else, do they hold onto a line? I don't know. Like, if you're free diving, I'm thinking back, what was the Big Blue? Can I think back to the Big Blue? Didn't they have lines that they would kind of follow, and so they could get up to a point and hold the actual rope to stop themselves? Because what you do when you're scuba diving, and it'll be, I guess I'd have to think back, what did people do in the 50s and whatever? Hey, Ian. Hey, Frederick. You have devices to help you know what there is, and then you would normalize. So for most, and I don't deep dive, everything you go up to about 15 feet and you hang out and you have a timer and you kind of wait and you go up. The timer, what you generally are waiting is, was it like 7 minutes, 10? I mean, it depends. Your dive watch will basically be there, but it's, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes, 7, 8 minutes, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit longer. I don't remember exactly. I always have to refresh my memory when I go. Any case, you're up there and you can use you have a jacket called a BSD. It's a vest, and you can use the vest to get yourself to a certain buoyancy, so where you can kind of hover around that where you're supposed to be. So you figure out, okay, I'm at 15 feet and I got to be here. I look at my watch. I got to be here for 7 minutes or 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it is. And you can adjust basically your jet. So this vest has compartments which you can add air from your tank into. So you're generally, you are weighted. I mean, your tank has weight. Just good, right? It's a tank. It's metal, but of course it's got air in it also. So it's probably actually, on the whole, I think it's probably, what we say, positively buoyant. I think if you just took your tank out, it would float for the most part. Maybe I don't know if it was just empty of air, maybe it would sink. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but any case, you generally have weights in your suit to help you get down and stay down. I tend to get better as I go, but you tend to need a bit of weight to be down. So when you're coming up, you can add little bits of air, and you're doing this usually as you're going anyway, but you can kind of figure out, like, okay, I'm at 15 feet and I can kind of sit there. I say all that to say, I don't know how you would do this in a fantasy environment. I would either just kind of hand wave it instead and say you can only move to a certain. So I guess what I would say is this: instead of this rule, which is if I'm ascending, I've got to rest every other turn, which would mean doing nothing. But if you're starting to ascend, you're starting to ascend. It's not, I'm going to stop now, and that's not effort and go up. Like, if I'm lighter than the water, right? So if left to my own devices, I'm just going to rise to the surface. Then there's no, like, resting. You're rising to the surface, in which case you're going to, whatever the pressure, the bends, whatever it is you're just going to get bent. You have to keep yourself. And and of course, it's not even like so there's kind of two things, right? There's you just go into the surface, and then there's the kind of safety stop thing. Either way, you have to kind of keep yourself from going faster. That kind of thing of, like, go slower than the bubbles of your water, kind of thing. So rather than say, have it be a rest, which doesn't make sense, I would just say you can only go so fast when ascending. Like, just say half your speed or half your swim speed. If swim speed is half your regular speed, then when ascending, you have to go half that speed again up. Otherwise, you start taking damage. That to me makes more sense in my brain. I don't know if it makes more sense to you. That's probably how I would go. But whatever. To each their own. And I'm probably, because I've done some diving, but I'm not, like, again, I'm not an expert diver, so I'm not pretending to have a super amount of knowledge, just some practical knowledge. That seems to me make more sense to me. Might also be a little bit easier to adjudicate than saying we're going to do kind of the stop start with rest, because I don't know if you're trying not to be buoyant, it's not like you really can rest unless you have kind of equipment that allows you to do it. Otherwise, you're either keeping yourself down by holding rocks or stuff, or you're starting to float up, and maybe you're able to get to a part where you have as much rocks in your pocket as you do air bubbles and kind of stay neutral. That's pretty tough. Speech, normal speech by non-aquatic creatures is ineffective. Yep. Something else that's just kind of creepy a little bit is sound underwater. I don't know if this is something that people are highly aware of, but it's something that it's kind of cool but creepy. Is directionality of sound. You lose it when you're underwater, and the reason is that because sound travels faster underwater than in the air. I think it's right. It's because it's faster, right? Sound is faster underwater. I think whatever it is. Anyway, case my elementary physics is off. Either it's, I think it's because it's faster. Yeah, that must be it. I think. Anyhow, what happens is that the sound when you're you're in the air, right? Something comes from a certain direction. You know it's from that direction because it hits one ear before the other ear. So okay, it's more like that, and you can figure it out based on all this stuff. Underwater, the sound ends up hitting your ears at the same time. So you can't, if you hear a boat going overhead, which if you're diving in an area that's around a kind of a resort island where there's a fair amount of traffic, is something you'll hear fairly often. You can't tell which way it's coming from. You have to actually look. Oh, it's over there, right? It doesn't, and so you just hear these kind of noises, and they just seem to be sort of omnipresent until they obviously get louder and they get quieter, but that directionality, you lose it, which is, I don't know if I'd want to figure that out in a game, but it is interesting because things that you think you could maybe count on, you can't so much. All right, sound and surprise. Okay, is further. I think so further. All right, so you get a +1 bonus. All surprise rolls receive a milestone. See, this is where it's interesting, right? Because like I'm saying, I would maybe just call it a wash. Maybe the hearing rolls I would give the bonus, but not the bonus to surprise, because you hear something, you can't immediately tell from where it is. So we got some stuff we can buy. So air bladders, glow corals, obsidian daggers, some sardines, a giant seahorse. I guess that's to ride. Sardines, would those be rations? Shark skin armor, a spell pebble, a trident, and an underwater boat. I'm not sure what the spell pebble does. Does it say what a spell pebble is? So that's cool. So they're obviously leaning into a little bit of, we're going to give you some, but one air bladder only lasts one turn. So 10 minutes. 10 minutes is what you got. Visibility below 50 feet. All light vision, infravision ranges are halved. Standard torches. 50 feet seems a little, well, I guess it's going to be that. Maybe we'll just say that's here. I don't know if that, I would say that's like a universal truth, but it probably works. Wandering creatures. So we get some wandering creatures. I'd love to know what a spell pebble is, but they're not telling me. They are leaning into it in terms of you can get mounts, shark skin armor. They don't say how good it is. Maybe they'll have it somewhere else, or did I skip it somewhere else? I'm not sure. All right, but it's cool. We have some dedicated kind of underwater gear. Presumably the shark skin armor is good underwater, but not good outside of it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would imagine any dagger would do, but I don't know if an obsidian dagger underwater does something better. Obviously, a glow coral, it's kind of like you need your lantern or your torch. They say 6. I guess that would mean that they also expire. Now we have some town and city rules. So this is kind of like your downtime, I'm guessing. So sequence of play, now we're going on a week. So yeah, this must be kind of a downtime equivalent. So you've got your weekly thing. So you have to pay your upkeep by cost, or 10 GP times your experience level per character. So just to keep yourself in clothes and victuals. We can check for events. So kind of like your wandering creatures, but presumably something a little bit different. You can buy equipment, hire retainers, train, research, all that. Healing, you heal, and then we update the time at the end of a week. That's fair. That's fine. I'm curious if they're going to give us some event type stuff or not. And then we've got a kind of a sample tavern and inn with some prices. Quality ales of silver, Applejack, a cereal. I don't know, 5 copper. Clerk who can write a letter for you. I guess 2 silver. Meads, 2 silver. Good meals, 2 silver. I don't pay a minstrel for 3 gold to do what? I'm not sure. One night in the rooms is a gold. Stable your horse for 5 silver, and you get some wine for 4 silver. I'm not up on my prices. It sounds fine. I'd love a little more detail on the minstrel and the clerk. I would just think you just hire a clerk as kind of a hireling, but I guess if you just needed to send a letter and you don't want to pay somebody, you just pay the clerk to do it for you. So that sounds reasonable. All right, so now something called challenges. Challenges inside of combat may be resolved through abilities using the system. Seems like a skill challenge type thing. So we define a challenge as having an objective, some amount of time, some amount of challenge, and then what kind of abilities you can use to overcome the challenge. An example of a challenge would be the objective is to extinguish a fire. You have 4 turns. Challenge points. or 24. And the abilities, intelligence abilities or dex abilities. I seem to be leaning in kind of a third edition-y kind of thing where you'd have, acrobatics, parentheses, dex, whatever, parentheses, intelligence, or, history, local, parentheses, intelligence. So what are the numbers for this? A moderate challenge has challenge points equal to the number of characters times the turns allowed. Okay, so this would be 4 turns. So we're assuming 6 characters, 4 turns, 24. Does that sound right? Characters roll ability checks each turn. A success using a listed ability reduces the challenge by 1, and you can modify it by your high ability scores. All right, yeah, so this is basically a skill challenge. I'm not super down on skill challenges. I guess if you need it or you want it, it's here for you, but it's not something I like. Especially in this case, it feels like maybe even less. I would say this is even less fulfilling than a skill challenge because it just seems like, okay, you can use your intelligence or your dex. I mean, I suppose as the referee, I would demand that before you just tell me I use my intelligence to extinguish the fire. It's kind of like, well, what does that actually do? Right? It would be. I feel like having this be intelligence or dex abilities for something like this example is just not good. Not good because one, there are okay. So what are the things you would do to extinguish fire? Get water, toss water on the fire would be one. I don't know that either one of those I would say is int or dex because I would put strength for that particular action, which is the most obvious action to do if this is just a mundane fire, would be filling a big bucket full of water, carting it over where the fire is, and tossing it in, which is definitely not intelligence. I'm not sure how I could define intelligence that would be the thing that would be. And I wouldn't see it as dexterity either. It's not really dex to fill the bucket or carry the bucket or launch the water in the bucket with the highest. And maybe you could say, oh, you're being more the most precise, but I would disagree. That to me is just brute strength and maybe endurance for doing that over and over and over again. I mean, it's almost one of those classic kind of strongman sort of competitions is filling a bucket with something big and heavy, carrying it over, depositing it, doing that over and over again. And who does it the fastest? It's the big, strong guy, not something else. So that seems like a weird example, and I would want it to be more of a fictional thing. But I am not a big fan of skill challenges, so maybe I'm not the person to give that a fair shake. Okay, so we have some downtime. We got that events, 1 in 6 chance, typically. All right, but we're not getting any examples or tables, which would have been nice. Healing, 46 HP per week, -2 hit points per day not spent resting. That's okay. I don't know. I almost feel like if you can, I mean, I guess if you want to be granular about your days spent, that's fine. I might just say just such and such a day instead of rolling. Someone gets, you end up with that silly stuff where somebody just gets, hey, I rolled 4. I rolled 6. And I could have rolled 24, which would have been filled me up. Instead, I rolled 6. So I'm out for a month. Gus says that and it's like figuring out how to find the sand or the water. I mean, continent works for me. Strength also works, but I don't know. It seems meh. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. Sure. If finding the stuff is part of it, then maybe. But I imagine most times if you're in the town, and I don't know, it's not clear if these challenges are supposed to be in towns or things. It's kind of in a section called town and city. But I feel like in those situations, finding the water probably isn't the issue. It's just doing the thing. But yeah, sure, if you want to. But even to me, like I wouldn't want to make that just a roll. That's where you play it out, I guess. But I'm not a fan of these systems to begin with, so it just isn't for me. And I just need a sip of my, what is this? Oh yeah, I think it's just straight up lemon spindrift for the working man. Yes, put out the fire does seem it's. I think to be fair, I think they were trying to give kind of a simple example, but it's always interesting when those simple examples are just not maybe too simple or leave something to be desired. And I think this one does that. In a town, yeah, charisma to organize the bucket brigade. Yeah, definitely. But my inkling would be just to play it out and not do it as a skill challenge kind of thing. Um, you know. But it's there. It's there. All right, this stuff is fine. Upkeep is fine. I don't know if I like. I feel like, and maybe it's just the point. I would to your experience level. I don't know. It's hard. That I'm kind of torn on that. I get it because it is that nice kind of tax. And oh, what do I do with my gold? Well, it's more expensive to upkeep you because you're high level. But I think I would rather have some kind of social distinctions, right? You want to live like a pauper, then you could spend coppers a night. And I don't really care if you're 10th level or first level, but I can also see that on the other end of it, if you're trying to live wealthy, if you're a high level, that kind of, especially if you're playing with titles and things like that that are meaningful, it's different to be a well-to-do, I don't know, journeyman or I don't even know, acolyte than it is to be a well-to-do patriarch. Like I can see how once you start going up levels, I think that the social costs should definitely multiply. But if you're at the bottom of the table, if you want to be a bum, it's not more expensive to be a bum because I'm a 10th level. But I could definitely see it being more expensive at the top end of it because you should be, right? What it means to be a wealthy king is different than to be like you could be considered a wealthy merchant by having a nice house and a nice thing. But if you're a wealthy king, the king part, it's kind of like being a king, having that rank adds a multiplier to what it means to be wealthy. If you're a king with that same wealth of that merchant, it's not the same. It ain't the same. Gus says, I find upkeep boring as hell, but love giving us bonuses for spending stupid amounts on upkeep in town. Like you need to spend 500 gold piece on a nice hat to walk safely in this part of town. Oh, I like that stuff too. I don't dwell over long in it. I like the social part because I think that's what you're doing is essentially paying. It's essentially something similar where it's like if you want to go see the Duke, what I like to say to my players if they're doing something like this is you can't ask because the party would be like, I want to see the local lord. It's like, well, where are you staying? We're staying at the Bumtown Inn. It's like, well, the Lord's not seeing anybody staying at the Bumtown Inn. Like you're not getting an audience with anybody at the Bumtown Inn. Nobody's taking you seriously at the Bumtown Inn, right? That you're a bum. That's why you're in the Bumtown Inn. If you want to present like you should be given invitations to do stuff and be taken seriously, then you got to stay at a serious place. But that's why I kind of like these weekly upkeep things. Like I don't even worry about it on a kind of a night to night basis. Just come up with sort of a flat rate, pay it, and move on. Yeah. Oh, I see. Gus is like by spending a stupid amounts, like spend 1,000 gold pieces a night in downtime to live like a weird rich guy and get 1+1 hit point per HD next session. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't. I definitely like to I do like kind of making kind of a rate and then just kind of not spend a ton of time on it and move on unless that's part of your game. You want to hang out and do something. All right, we do have a table of events. I'm not going to read all these, but the D20 based table. So one is the party is invited to participate in a contest of strength or skill. I mean, whatever. A roaring multi-building fire breaks out in the settlement. All right, see their skill challenge above. A treasure map comes into possession of the party. This one's a nice one. These are fine. I mean, I guess I would say, if it's the way that these things seem to be, is you could use these as kind of plot hooks. Obviously, a treasure map is a great plot hook. So is an invitation, maybe not to a contest of strength or skill, but an invitation to a party or something or a whatever. This is interesting where it's just kind of like, hey, some dude comes up to you, rolls up to you, and tries to cast Charmed Person on you. Not very nice. Hey, Red Caps. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting question. I hesitate because I feel like I could get sidetracked on this now. But Patrick Theophan Barnes asks, with way more material out there than there's time to cover it, how do I determine which product I'm going to devote to stream to? Good question. I do not, in my ultimate wisdom, I do not have a set methodology. Sometimes it's what do I have time for? What kind of thing fits? So I have some things that are on my backlog I need to get to, but they're massive. And I feel like I want to either have to be able to devote multiple days in a row to it or make a long stream and say, I got 3 hours, so I can spend 3 or 4 hours on this one piece. That's part of it. I'm kind of a sucker for settings and sandboxy stuff like this. So I see like sandbox kind of settingy stuff, and I like that stuff. It's practically in my name. The dartboard is also can come in handy. Folks send me stuff. I'm not at at some point I'll have to get more organized with it, but right now it's folks will send me things, and if it hits my fancy and I just feel into it, or I mean, sometimes it's as much as, oh gosh, I'm supposed to be streaming in 10 minutes. I'm scrolling like, what? I don't have anything to do. What do I have quickly? And something will just pop into my brain or whatever. Sometimes it's all over the board, basically. You know, right now, especially, it's pretty flexible. So hopefully it'll kind of stay that way. I will probably at some point have to get more structured in the way I do things. Gus, yeah. So I do have a contact thing which has a file, like if you have a file you want to send it. If you go to Hex.press, there should be a contact thing. Or I think you can go to contact.hexpress. So here I am. I don't even have like contact stuff available. Probably, practically speaking, if you find me on social media and direct message me on like Discord or something, we can get like email and things. You got copies of stuff. All right. Or I'm not going to call it crap. It's not crap for sure. And then generally it's kind of like, what am I vibing on right now? What kind of looks interesting to me? What do I feel like I have time for? I was kind of hoping to have this all done in one, and that's not the other thing is a lot of times, which I think is, I'm gonna say the charm of what I do. It's kind of simple. I don't really pre-read the stuff much. So I'll pick something and go. And I was kind of hoping to do this in one shot, but it's longer than that, which is great. Sometimes that happens. I mean, sometimes it happens in a big way, like Muster, which I did not know when I started Muster it would take me that long to do it. Or Errant, when I read through the Errant when it was beta or whatever, earlier version of Errant, and it took forever. I mean, it was good, but it just took a long time. But yeah, I will at some point, it'll be getting more structured just through it will just have to. But right now it's kind of like, if you catch me on the right moment with something, it might jump to the top of my list. Otherwise, sometimes, like I said, they'll float around for a while. I'm just not that organized. So sometimes I'll have the best of intentions. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this on Tuesday. I forget about it. And then it's like a month later, I pick it up again. I'm like, oh yeah, I meant to do this, and go. There are things I'm looking at where I'm like, oh man, I should be doing that, but I got on this kind of tangent, et cetera, et cetera. Gus says Mustard and Aaron both worth it. Oh yeah, totally. They're all absolutely worth the effort to do. Sometimes I just don't know how long something's going to take until I get into it. So the best thing to do is just reach out to me, get in touch with me, ship it over, and sometimes I'll be like, yeah, this slots in perfectly with kind of what I'm feeling, or sometimes just fired up. I get excited. I think, I don't know how it comes across over to you guys out there, but when I'm reading something, I tend to read things I'm kind of excited in the moment to read. So I'm not like at that point where I'm just super jaded yet or down on them yet. And, I think the benefit is that you get to see what I'm reading. So if I'm vibing on it and you're not, you'll see it, and you're not just getting my vibing without the context around it. So I do kind of, I don't just read things because they're sent to me. Though I try to, unless it's just way far off what I'm doing, but then I'll try to communicate and say like, hey, this is great, but probably not for me. Sarah says I plan streams like you do game prep. Yeah, totally. Gus, I hear you. I am not good at social media stuff either. Despite what it might appear like, though, I imagine it doesn't appear like I'm much better at it than I actually am. But yeah, Gus, yeah, reach out on, if we're on the same Discord, you can find me. I mean, I have a Discord, or my forums.hex.press, or on X/Twitter. I'm at Hexed Pressman on there. I do have that contact. I'll dig it up after the stream because I want to open up multiple windows, but I do have a contact form officially that I will post on the end here just in case. But yeah, it's a great question. And I probably should make some kind of like video where I go through this stuff and just put it out there so I can just have people watch it, or a post somewhere I can say, here's how it works. But that's, when I get it, I do have to probably figure out a better system. Okay, so we got some events. Those are fine. Is there anything like more like, okay, monsters attack the settlement? All right. I'll just start looking up. All right, so you like one event per week? Okay. You could really, I do like the idea of kind of having urban events. I don't know that these are my favorite. I'm not reading them all. Some of them seem to be just kind of a moment, like you're attacked, deal with it. A curse is placed on a party member. I don't love that. I mean, it's fine if it's kind of part of a thing, just kind of random curse. I want that to be. I probably want something like that to be more meaningful. Unless we've got a roving band of witches that are something that's going around cursing people in the night. This one's kind of good if you've got a plot, or not a plot, I would say, if there's something going on, another kind of plot hooky sort of thing, scenario hook. Someone gets accused of a serious crime. Oh, here we go. So you have, I'm going to skip over the game, but it's cool. We have a game you can throw in there called Goblin Dice. So it's always cool when you can work in some kind of real life, or not a real life, but play a game in the games. In this case, I'm not going to go through the mechanics, but it looks like it's a 2d6 roll off sort of thing. I do have. I think it is on my bio. I think if you go to like my X / or whatever, Zitter, Twitter, X, whatever bio, I do have it. Yeah, I think Gus points out the specific purse attached to a specific location. Yeah, that's the thing, right? We're getting these. To be fair, these are very generic. They're just events for towns. But yeah, I think something like a curse, I want to have more width. So either give me something where it's more worlds without numbers. I don't know if there's another system where it kind of will prompt you for questions like, okay, you got the entry where someone's been cursed, and then prompt you as the GM to ask questions: who cursed them and why, and what do they want? That kind of thing, right? Because I think something like that, I want it to be more specific. I want it to be able to tie it into something or make it part of something that's happening, and not just, like I said, some random witch sprinkling dust inside, for no reason. Okay, save versus spells. Okay, you passed, or I guess now you're not cursed. And what does that curse even mean? Is it just that kind of generic penalty? Is it like a cursed item? What's going on? Yeah, I want some more. I mean, it's a good start, and it's a good thing to get your mind thinking, but yeah, I wouldn't mind a little bit more there. All right, so we get some domain management stuff. Good to have. Characters who construct a stronghold may establish a domain either in the untamed wilderness or within lands ruled by an existing noble or other leader. Gus says, going back to curses, like the croaking bell, boils erupt on the PC's face. Do Madame Brindle and Hell Swamp a favor to cure? Yeah, right. That would be good. But right now, for good or for ill, we'll see. Right, we haven't gotten any super setting related stuff. We have this setting. We can see it right here. I've been having this map on half my screen, but everything right now is very generic. So we'll have to see later. But yeah, that's totally what I would want. Right, something like that. If you haven't dealt with this person before, and then maybe what's the method? Because something I know annoys me as a player is if the GM's like, "Hey, you're cursed," and I'm like, "Well, what did I do to get cursed? What was it?" Because I try to take care. Especially if I know that these curses are a thing, I'll be like, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I try to watch what I do. I always, maybe my SOP is, if I'm a cleric, I always cast petrify food and water, purify food and water before I drink, yada, yada, yada. So how did I get got? Right? I want to know. I don't want to be just like, oh, I just randomly chose you. It's like, no, MFer, I tried to prepare for all contingencies. So you tell me how I got kind of thing. Anyhow, all right, domains. Gus creating a curse in stream. Maybe we should be watching you, Gus. So if your Christmas moves to 3, unless you started with below 5, then you gotta wear a bag to avoid being chased out of town by an angry mob. I like that. You gotta wear. Is it the unknown comic? Is that what you gotta do? You gotta put the bag on your head and say bad jokes and hope that the man. I'm dating myself horribly. Hope that the big hook doesn't pull you out of town. These are all references to the Gong Show, ladies and gentlemen. That tells you a little bit of how past my prime I am. Terrence has got a duck feet curse. Oh, man. If I start reading those, I'll never get back on track. All right, domains. Did I tell you we were on the page about domains? So domains have rulers. They got a, I guess they call it a stronghold, but maybe that would be a capital, which was what they mean. Primary structure from which you're ruling domain. Some sort of territory, some sort of population, a confidence level, an income, expenses, a treasury, their military force, and war dice. Don't know what war dice is, but it's used for allocating mass combat units to deploy. I'm curious how that was different from mass combat units. We have mass combat units, which are used for military units, used for offense, for defense, and it's just, I guess, offense and defense. And then you have war dice, which is about allocating those units. I don't know how those two go. Hey, Gus, go drink gin in the park. Or that's where they're going. Later, have fun with the gin. Don't get out of hand, or you'll end up waking up somewhere in a bad place cursed, maybe missing a liver or two. All right, so we can establish a domain. So you have to identify a location, clear the land, design the stronghold, construct the stronghold, populate the domain, and record statistics. Interesting, because I guess it'd be interesting. The populate the domain thing is so it seems like this is definitely okay. Establishing a domain in the wilderness, so you're not taking over, you're not plunking a stronghold where there's already some kind of settlement. That's fine. I mean, that's good. Domains should cost a minimum of 100,000 gold pieces. Fine. A ruling council. Instead of a single player establishing a domain, a party may wish to rule a domain together as a council. The council will share the expense of initially constructing the stronghold. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I guess it's interesting. What I find interesting is that they found the need to put this in here. I guess it's just reminding people that, oh, by the way, you don't have to have a single ruler. You could have, rule by a few. What do they call that? Not a plutocracy. What a oligarchy, right? That's a rule by a few. Plutocracy, but it's we rule by many. Am I remembering those things correctly? But okay, got it. I guess since I guess charisma's used, so they're saying you just average out charismas. Fine. Oligarchy. Yeah, oligarchy was it. All right, so it's fine. I mean, I don't know anybody needs them, and they're very generic. I think there's a lot here to this book, but I almost would prefer, not that the generic advice, or I don't want to say advice, some generic guidelines aren't good, but I kind of almost would prefer that we just make this part of the setting stuff and say, I don't like rather than telling me, here's how you can just maintain a domain or, do this domain stuff kind of generically, like tell me what it's about here. Like in this setting, does it work the same as it works out there? In which case, I suppose it's fine to have the generic one. But I kind of think this is where you can get into what makes the setting different from any other setting. Oh, plutocracy says rule according to economic status. Okay, thank you. So I was a little bit off. Appreciate the correction. And also oligarchy is wealthy ruling elite. Okay. Close enough. If you're the players, you probably are. If you're at the point of domain management, you are a few. It might depend also on what the context is, whether it's oligarchy meaning an elite, or because an elite's a few, that therefore it's an oligarchy. So I don't think oligarchy has to be elites, but I think it often is, because who else would those few be? Not important. Not a really important distinction. I think it definitely in line of a fantasy medieval standpoint, they're going to be about the same. Not going to have some few poor people somehow ruling over the elites. Red Cap says they don't use fancy words like you guys. I don't use them much either, which is why there's endless confusion whenever I deploy one, because I have to remember what the heck I was talking about. All right, so we got domain level progression. So that's kind of interesting. So you can have population change, income, and then the war dice, which is, I guess, for your militia. Okay, then maybe that makes more sense. So if your military units are the ones that are kind of permanent military, and then the war dice are kind of your furred, or is it feared? Your draft people. Maybe that makes it a little bit more sensible to me. So confidence, a domain must be well funded and defended to maintain the confidence of its people. At least 50% of domain income should be spent on military improvements and festivals. Each month less is spent, its confidence level is reduced by 10. Low confidence results in reduced income and can lead to rebellion. Random events can also affect confidence per the monthly domain events table. That's not bad. Not a bad little system. I think that maybe it's just me, but I would rather say, because I don't know how, because it kind of assumes that everybody knows your finances, right? It's like you got open books. You didn't spend 50% of your income on festivals, improvements in military this time, so confidence is lowered. I would rather, I'm not sure if I love that or not, or I would just say that like festivals help raise confidence. Military, I don't know if that raises confidence, though. I guess it would, but it's kind of like it shades what sort of domain you are. Are you iron-fisted tyrant who's ruling because you've got troops, you've got your men in every village, and you're enforcing things, or how are that kind of cements that? And then, of course, improvements are nice, but maybe I would look at. I don't know if I just want to do it differently, but I guess the one nice thing about this is it's just you can just kind of figure it out and spend very little time on it. So I suppose it really comes down to how much do you want to make domain a part of your active play or planning or whatever. And then I think this is nice if you just want to be really quick and just get through it and into other stuff. That's great. If you want to get a little bit more detailed, but I kind of like the idea that you might finance festivals and roll some dice on particular festivals and like what are those improvements and what are those things doing. But I guess that I kind of get into that stuff. And if you're not into that stuff, then instead of switching to spreadsheet the game, you can just do some rough calculus and roll some dice. Military, a ruler should allocate a portion of domain wealth to fund a professional army. I mean, you don't have to. This kind of, I mean, I guess what we're getting into, and maybe this is sort of pseudo setting stuff, but there were definitely points in time in which you didn't have this, where you didn't have a professional army. You called up the Ferd or the Feared or whatever it's called. You called up your militia, and that's just kind of what you did. And you had your retinue, and that was essentially it. You had your knights or your household who were basically on hand all the time. If something else happened, you were calling everybody up. And then you had to get to certain levels, certain organizations where you had standing military, your empires, your Roman Empire, I guess the Chinese way back when had them. Lots of folks didn't have them. I mean, the Greek city-states didn't have that. Maybe the Spartans did. I don't even know, right? It was just, you had to call up people and you did it. So I don't know that you have to have this thing. It's, I guess what I'm wondering are they saying something just about their ideas of generic fantasy setups, or is this actually a kind of a setting thing that we're in this setting, everybody's got standing armies? It's certainly interesting. It says a lot about economics and things if you can afford to do all that, because I think if you're looking at kind of like, depending on where you are in the Middle Ages, really all of it for the most part. I mean, maybe the very end when people started to have standing armies, but you really couldn't afford it, just too much. And not to mention the fact that all those guys, if they're in your standing army, they're not tilling fields for you. So, where is that production coming from? Terrence says they have a friend who would love spreadsheet the game. Hey, look, I mean, Pendragon seems to me like it's kind of half spreadsheet the game, and I am dying to play Pendragon at some point. So I don't want to do everything spreadsheet the game, but I'm certainly willing to have some spreadsheet the game for some things. So then you have economics, and we have some domain events. Could be a tragedy, misfortune, some kind of success or a triumph. I kind of would like this I wouldn't mind putting together, having sort of using this with just a generic events table just for everything. Maybe I'm thinking here bigger events, not kind of like it was day 3 and this happened, but kind of like what's the overriding thing for this month in the town? It's regular, business as usual, or something great's happened or something horrible's happened. Patrick says, I don't think the Spartan civilization much had a quote unquote standing military so much as they were a standing army, super unique civilization history. Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable on that. So yeah, you could be totally, I will defer to you. What I'm simply saying is that most of the time, most of the eras that characterize what we're thinking of when we think of kind of fantasy medieval, standing armies weren't really a thing, though people play with them. In games we do things all the time, right? But we think about it more often and kind of what we're thinking of, it's more, you've got your kind of knights who are themselves are landowners. So they're not, the knights, say the Knights of the Round Table are not Arthur's standing army. They're guys who are then lords over domains, who would then bring their, right, the knights, so Arthur has his household, and then he calls to him the Knights of the Round Table, who are just the heads of theirs, who have their households. And when you're doing the whole army to go fight Mordred, you are pulling in all this stuff. Like Arthur didn't have the standing army. But I think like games like settings like Game of Thrones and things like that. I guess Lord of the Rings to an extent, because Gondor seems to have a standing army of sorts. Though it's been a while since I've read in detail the books, really define it. It may even be that the books do a better job of having, certainly like Rohan, they muster, right? The Rohirrim kind of muster everybody forward. They don't have these like, oh, I just have my army here. Like, no, you got to get all these people up and going, and getting them and doing all that stuff, and getting them to where they need to be and being available and sort of everything is kind of what started in some ways the lack of that. The breakdown of those big standing army things that they kind of is sort of what got us into the whole castles and everything to begin with. The proliferation of the kind of castle lord system. He loves EVE Online. Is that still going on, EVE Online? Oh boy. Spreadsheet, the video game, is EVE Online. Okay. Yeah, I've just seen videos in EVE Online, but I feel like that was like 10 or 15 years ago. I didn't realize it was still a thing, but maybe it is. So we can have a chance of rebellion, which is cool. I'm gonna kind of glaze over the details here. So we have a mass combat system. I'm gonna be very brief on this one too. So we have a battle sequence, declare any retreats, initiative, and then you do the winning side, morale, movement, attack, or other action, then the other side acts. So basically it's pretty much the same as regular combat, which is what he says right there. don't use individual initiative. Yeah. I mean, unless you're doing units, I could see if you have specific units breaking everything into some kind of organization, then maybe use it there. But yeah, I'm not even sure what individual initiative would mean in mass combat. Morale. Okay, we got morale. That's fine. Then we have some optional mass combat rules. I'm just going to say that, hey, you've got them. You got some war dice. So what is the war dice? If mass combat involves only units, no characters and monsters, use the following procedure. Instead of choosing units and repeating the battle sequence, each side gets a generic unit for each war die they have committed to the battle. Okay, so I guess it's like war dice. It seems to be, it's kind of a weird word they use. Is basically you're just committing so many units. This is if kind of no character types are in the battle itself, and then you just roll dice for those units. Seems like that's what it is, more or less. Red Caps can't see Terrence comments. You guys are all on Twitch, or sorry, not Twitch, YouTube. Everybody's on YouTube. Hardly anybody's on Twitch. I'm going to tell you on a little secret here. I don't get much viewership on Twitch. I'd love it to change. Twitchers find me, but the only people who tend to come in and hit me up on Twitch are, I don't know if they're bots or real people or some combination of both, are the artists who are looking like, hey, can I redo your icons and all that stuff? And answer is no. I'm not at a point where I want to spend any money to do things when nobody follows me on Twitch anyway. And I personally don't think that's the most important things I could be. If I want to up my game on Twitch or elsewhere, those icons are not the first thing. And two, they all seem to be doing it. I don't know. Oh, Ian says YouTube is rating Terrence's comments at a lower value. Oh, I got to change my chat setting because it's can't see this. Sorry if you're watching this and I got the chats popping up, but they're coming up like I didn't realize that they're coming up white on black. I wonder if I can change that real quick because that's terrible. I had it fixed one way. I think I messed with it. Yeah, I got it under. All right, I'm going to change it. I didn't like the way this box setting was, but I might need to just keep it there. There we go. I'm back to the box. I got to figure out the boxed. Make it look a little bit better. I tried to change it, but I didn't. Just looks like mush. So sorry that the chat stuff, if you're watching this and you don't have the chat open on a screen, the chat looks like garbage. Gabbagey. Brian says that Terrence's comments are the opposite of low value. They're distilled gems of brilliance. Well, maybe just gems of brilliance, just for whatever reason, aren't rated that highly by the chat algorithm. I'm going to kind of skip over the mass combat units. We've got it. If you're interested in that, you've got it. Oh, but I'm going to skip. And we got to unit descriptions. We have dragon riding. Are we interested in dragon riding? You've got it. I'm just going to kind of go with you've got it. Mist dragons, magical dragons that cast spells as breath weapons. Oh, that's a nice wrinkle. Intelligent flying mounts that level and join in combat. At a cost of 1,000 gold pieces for a level 1 dragon, they will bind their alignment to the characters. They are unwavering loyal, but must be actively controlled by a rider of higher experience level or will not travel or fight. Okay, so this is kind of like a Dragon Riders of Pern kind of dealio. So they bind themselves to you, but you got to be at least higher experience level. So if you the first level you could get a dragon and use it would actually be level 2 because you need to be higher level than the level 1 dragon if that's your game. So one thing that's super interesting is they cast spells as breath weapons. I like that a lot. I don't know how overpowered that is. I think somebody's pointing out. Ian says 1,000 gold. This is how you get a party plus retainers of dragon riders. Yeah, they're not expensive. I mean, given for what it sounds like you're getting, I mean, at this point, why wouldn't you have a dragon at level 2? I mean, level 2, it just seems like, if we're doing XP for gold or gold for XP, however you want to term it, the first thing you do at level 2 is you get yourself a level 1 dragon. I don't know. I feel like that's what you do. You just get one. Now, they do have leveling, so I guess once you get one, you're going to have to now go through the progression to level up as opposed to just buying your way through. But maybe it seems like, I'm guessing that you have to buy a level 1 dragon. So you can't buy a higher level dragon. So I guess that would be my thing. So you want to get it early. You want to get this right away. You want to get this level 2, you go buy a level 1 dragon. Because you got to start level 1 anyway, and this way you have them for the maximum amount of time. Oh, visible vegetables want to ride the dragons? No problem. Well, you still can't leave it out. Well, we still haven't gotten a scale, to my recollection, on how big this thing is. So maybe we would say, let's not call it an island. Let's call it a continent. Yes, you've got your dragons, but you're keeping them on the continent. We'll see later if they say exactly how big it is. I don't remember them saying at least how big the hexes are. So we don't know. But yes, you are still bound inside the mist. For what that's worth. Breath weapons. Mist dragons may use their breath weapons once per day per level. Okay, so that's nice. It kind of scales up. The breath weapons available depend on the type of dragon, and they can be any. It's a line, so it can be. So any. Okay. Okay, so any dragon can cast a line of fire, not a cone, but a line of fire that deals damage equal to half the dragon's hit points. So at first level, 4. So still 60-foot line. You can catch people right, but no, okay, you're not doing not a ton of dragon, but you're only level 1. If you're an alabaster, I guess they're doing colors again, but they're doing a little bit different. So they're not doing, they're not doing metals. Red Cap says it also make healing time for dragons much longer than PC's healing time. I don't know if in this case it might not make sense in this case because they're not super. Your dragon, a level 1 dragon only has 8 hit points. So I mean that's if you're giving a max. So I think because of the way these are sort of powered down from your conventional dragons, shall we say? They're almost like wyverns, kind of, or Pern type dragons, not this is not smog or smaug. So we got to keep that in mind when we're if you want to do healing and things like that, make it kind of draconic in that they're super powerful, so they do things slowly. It's like, well, you only got 5 hit point dragon. You really want to punish the player by saying that it takes them weeks or months instead of days to heal? I probably wouldn't. Oh. Visible vegetables, not a fan of the Land of Mist so far. Wiseman says, so if you kill a Dragon Rider in duel, can you take theirs, or do they have an Unbreakable Bond? The Unbreakable Bond, wasn't that a U2 album? I'm not sure. Let's see what they say. So, okay, so we got our breath weapon. If any dragon can do the line of fire. Alabaster dragons can cast a cloud of web. Amber dragons can cast a cloud of charm monster. Sign me up for the amber dragon if I can find one, because that's crazy. Do they know how crazy having a cloud of charm monster is? I mean, have they thought that one through? I'm not sure they've thought that one through, because that's right now. I'm going amber dragon or bust. It's just one time per day of a cloud of charm monster. Are you kidding me? Yeah, sold. 1,000 gold pieces? Yeah, sold. A moss dragon, 90-foot long cone of growth of plants, which is really cool, but super, what would I say? Situational kind of usage. The rose dragon, 60-foot long cone of confusion, also pretty darn good given confusion. Twilight, 6-foot long cone of sleep. Problem is that doesn't sleep doesn't scale that well as because eventually things just start to opt out of sleep, or not opt out. They just kind of get too strong for sleep. But Charm Monster, man, that's going to keep you going for a long time. Ian says, would I rather have a dragon with an army of ogres or a dragon with trees that grow faster? That's true. The one thing I have to think about, I haven't looked at the spell in a long time, but do you need to have plants there that you make grow, or do they grow plants from nothing? So could you be in an underground place and fill it with trees by just going or do you have to be in a forest? I can't remember. I'm guessing it's the latter. You have to have the plants there already. So it makes it a great thing if you're in a forest or something, but not. And I don't think you gain control of the plants. They just grow. So it's situational. Whereas Charm Monster is just good anywhere. Depends if we're a pecan farmer. Victims save versus breath in addition to any save allowed by the spell effect. Okay, so the one caveat is that they do get an extra save. So I guess the save versus breath is are they able to get out of the cloud? And then do they save versus spell? Still, I will take, I think of all these, I'll take Charm Monster every day of the week, twice on Sundays compared to the other things. So in terms of in combat, a dragon and his rider act together. Only one may attack or cast spells in a single round. Not using their breath weapon, a mist dragon may bite for a d6 damage. That's why. Yeah, I mean, I guess they only get to do their breath limited numbers. So I guess just they'll have to use those bites, but that's not really cutting it for too long. Enemies may either target the dragon or the rider, and I guess the rider gets a +4 AC bonus being on top of the dragon. And mist dragons have a natural armor class of 5 or 14 if you're using ascending armor class. If left alone or commanded to by their rider, a mist dragon will fade to mist and disappear. They can be summoned by their rider when outdoors and above ground. So this is kind of a nice little thing. It feels very gamey, right? Okay, we're going into the dungeon, so the mist dragon doesn't fit. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna leave the mist dragon out here, though. Maybe that's a good thing. Guard the baggage, guard the baggage train. But no, fade to mist. Goodbye, and now I'll bring you back. But it's kind of nice, and they're mist dragons, so fade to mist. It doesn't feel totally video gamey like the mount that just runs away but then comes back at a whistle. It seems, whatever. It's cool. I'm down with it. Ian says, I think reading from the SRD about growth of plants, a dense thorny thicket of vines and brambles overwhelms an area of normal woodland or scrub within range. An area up to 3,000 square feet is affected. Well, that's really big, but it sounds like at least got to be outdoors. Unless you wanted to give it kind of moss or fungus underground, which I suppose maybe you think, well, the dragon's never going to be underground. They're too big to really get underground unless you have massive underdark hollow earth situations. So maybe that's okay. I'll still take Charm Monster, but you can do a lot. I mean, you can threaten. I imagine that those moss dragon riders could seriously threaten towns because you could destroy crops with that 3,000 square feet. Man, oh man. Dragon Cap says, now the question is that charm monster spell, the dragon has charmed them, so will the dragon always do exactly what the PC wants, even if it's a bit morally questionable? It's a good question. They seem to suggest they are unwaveringly, well, they don't even suggest, they say it outright. They are unwaveringly loyal. So if you want to say technically they're bound to the dragon, who is then bound to the person, you could have some fun with that, but it seems like they're unwaveringly loyal. Unwavering loyalty, and that even their alignment switches to the character, they're pretty much going to do what the character wants. Which is probably, I mean, I guess if you want to make it a more complex, I suppose you could say it would be more interesting and more complex if you decoupled that relationship a bit. But you know, it's fun. That's cool. I'm not angry at them for saying like, yeah, it's what the player wants. You know. And then we have a dragon trainer specialist. Oh, I guess you need one to train your dragons. How to train your dragon, the game. Instead of a monthly wage, they are paid based on how many experience points the dragon gains during training at a rate of 1 gold piece for 1 XP. It takes a month. Oh, interesting. So you're going to have to go without your dragon for a while and cost the gold. So they don't get, interestingly enough, so this is interesting. They don't get XP. I don't know if I would have done it like this. I kind of wish that they would treat them like a retainer where their XP is actually deducted from the player XP. Because this case, the player kind of gets a double dip in a sense. So I go up to 2nd level. Ergo, I have, and I don't know what I don't remember what all the charts are, but you're going to have about this much gold at, or let's just call 3rd level. You'll probably have about this much gold at 3rd level because you need that much to level up. So you got your 5,000 gold, and then you get to spend it to bring your, your dragon up to at least 2nd level, maybe higher. So you kind of get to spend it and then spend it again. I suppose you're not spending it on your stronghold or spending it on something else, so you get to spend it on the dragon. But I think it's, maybe I like it more thematically that the dragon's out there kind of as a retainer. It takes up, I would say the dragon takes up a retainer slot. If you're saying you're going with kind of limited number of retainers, the dragon takes a retainer slot. It's not just a mount, it's more than that. And that it levels up in that way. So it's taking some of your experience out and adding it to that. Maybe out of yours, like not the whole party's, right? So if the party got 10,000 experience points and you always split it 5 ways, so you got 2,000, now the dragon splits some off of you, kind of thing. I think that's how I would do it. But this is fine. Maybe I know. Maybe I don't know if they tested different ways of doing it, but whatever. You have to pay, and then you have to send the dragon. I think the benefit of my version is the dragon always kind of sticks with you. You don't need to send it away. This one, you just get to spend some money on it, so you just pay a tax essentially. But then you have to have the dragon has to be away for a month, which is fine if you were going to have a downtime for a month, and maybe it's a reason to have downtime. But if you weren't, then you got to send the dragon away. All right, so we have immortality. So they mentioned immortals. And it seems like they are giving us at least a methodology for having your characters gain immortality. I have the immortals box of the Beck Me box. I don't think I've ever read it. Because I didn't have Beck Me back in the day. Beck Me, I bought Beck Me as kind of a modern, when I started kind of going back and recapturing the stuff I had back in the day, I went and got the Beck Me box set. I got really lucky. It's a shame in a way, the G plus, people have lamented the G plus days if you weren't around or you weren't privy. G plus had, or it's not G plus, Google Groups. Well, I guess was G plus part of Google Groups. Anyway, they had Google Groups, and there were all kinds of great Google Groups. And Google Groups really, they were like little communities, like subreddits or Discord servers in a way, where you go and do stuff. It was all on Google, so it was all free. It was all in the cloud, whatever you could join. And there was really in those Google groups is where the OSR, not the first, it was kind of second wave of the OSR, but it was like it was kind of the original where all the blog posts and things were shared and lots of creativity. And it was a great incubator for OSR thought. And one of the groups that was in there was a marketplace. You could buy and sell stuff. I don't even know if it was strictly OSR. I feel like it was. There might have been one for OSR, but there was one. I don't know. Somebody managed it, and it was wonderful. And the thing is about is people were kind of, you were buying and selling. It wasn't like eBay or something where I don't. So I think I mentioned this before. People would just send you stuff like, oh, I bought this book, and they would just send like 3 other things with it because I guess they had it around. And people were just kind of going through and culling their collections, doing stuff. And so somebody had put up there basically the entire Beckme set for sale. I think it was through the Google group because I was also active on like Dragon's Foot, which also had some of these buy, sell, trade deals going on. It probably still does. In any case, I was able to get the whole Beckme set, all the boxes, everything in them for like the amount that you would pay for like one box, like a crazy thing. But I have not gotten around to reading the Immortality, or the I in Beckme is the Immortals. So that would be that. Visible Vegetables asks, why not buy 2 dragons? Well, you can only ride 1 dragon at a time. I imagine, so the way I would work it, so they don't say it, they kind of imply, it's kind of implied that you only have 1 because you kind of only have 1 mount. They don't say you can't have more than 1. I would probably do something like it's a binding, right? I think Pern has that too, aren't they? Bound to their dragons. I think Game of Thrones, right? Don't they bind themselves? The dragons are bound, I think. So I would say that you could only have 1 of these bindings, 1 of these things at a time. It's just the way I would have it. But they don't. I don't think he says it. They don't think they say it explicitly, but it's kind of implicit. You're only getting 1. Yeah, you got to keep the Pyramid of Dragons. Me and my first level dragon are riding on this 2nd level dragon, which is riding on a 3rd level dragon. Yeah, they're Brian's about 1 foot on each dragon's back, like a trick rider. Yeah, it's a look high trust, right? We're not gonna, we don't need to legislate how many dragons. We know there's supposed to be 1 dragon per person, and if somebody gets, I'm gonna have 4 dragons, like maybe make that a thing, but then you can't have any retainers and you can't do anything else because you got dragons. Maybe do something like that, right? It's up to you as the referee to make your call. All right, so as far as Immortality, so I guess I was going around to say I have the Immortals box set. I've never really read Immortals. It wasn't like I played with back in the day. So I don't have any context to judge like how, if they're just reusing that or whatever, but we have some rules for it. So you got to establish a cult, got to gain some followers, and you have to attempt an ascension. This is the part I'm really curious about. To ascend and become an immortal, a character must shed their mortal form. In the presence of their followers, they must enact a ritual in which they call upon those immortals that share their alignment to welcome them to their ranks. The immortals will judge the character's deeds and decide whether or not to assist with their ascension. If found worthy, the immortals will attempt to elevate the character to live among them for eternity. The characters must make an unmodified save versus death to determine if they survive the ascension. If they succeed, they become an immortal. If they fail, they immediately die. All right. I'm actually okay with this. This is kind of end game kind of thing here. And at some point, you got to just do it. And if you're at high level, which presumably you would be, your save versus death is probably pretty good. So it's not like 10. It's probably should be better than 50-50 odds. But still, that just look at the draw kind of thing here. Maybe I would let you, one of them was, I might maybe let you have some kind of modifier to your follower count. I don't know what I think about it, but I'm not bad. I'm not mad at that. I think it's fine. We don't have any rules here for what it means to get the immortals on your side, but I suppose it's in your game you'd be doing various quests and things. It's almost like I wouldn't be nice to have like a faction chart of the immortals and kind of what things they want, and you can do things, try to get favor with different immortals, but you can figure that out on your own. If the character dies during Ascension, their cult is disbanded. If the character is ever resurrected or reincarnated, they must start over and establish a new cult if they ever wish to again to seek immortality. Interesting. So if you fail this part, start over from scratch. You probably just want to do it once and nail it. Being an immortal, player may seek, right. We got it. Okay, so if they wish to play as an immortal or in a manifested immortal form, immortals can act in the world in the following ways. I kind of think so basically give him some rules for if you want to play as an immortal, though it seems like it's a cool kind of end game. Like, yeah, I ascend to the godhood and then leave it at that. Boy, Visible Vegetables does not like the fact that they can't leave the place. Yeah, well, you're an immortal here. Womp womp. We haven't seen if they're, you're going to feel really bad, Visible Vegetables, if at the end of this book there are rules for leaving the island or continent, because again, we don't. I'm going to say it's bigger than the island, unless the island is Australia. I'm just going to go there. I don't think this is not Nantucket. This is not Long Island. Feeling this is kind of bigger than. I mean, look at it. Look, it's got you've got all the biomes and stuff. This is not. I feel like by calling it an island, we're giving this very great. You can't have a great desert on a little island. This is not Gilligan's Island. So I'm going to say it's go continent size. Though like I said, I can't recall them yet saying exactly how big it is. But I'm gonna. That's how I'm gonna skew things until I hear differently. I'm presuming this isn't. It's bigger than an island. Bigger than your average bear. Spellcasting. So runes are special forms of writing which can be used by spellcasters. There are two different uses for runes: secret writing system or inscribe spells. So I wonder if those spell pebbles where you could inscribe a spell onto the pebble and then use it underwater. Because they talked about spell pebbles with the underwater thing, but didn't actually tell us what it was. All right, I'm going to kind of blow through this. So we have totems. You can summon it. The totem is a symbol of an animal which holds spiritual significance to the individual community and embodies the spirit of the animal which it represents. So I think anybody can have a totem and then summon the totem. So it's kind of a nice little extra bit that you get. Oh, 245 tracks and bring in the Lost connection of having some stations. I Lost was really fun the first few seasons. And I did watch it till the end, even though it that point where it became clear that this stuff doesn't make any sense, and it's never going to make any sense. I'll never forgive those guys for hosting those stupid talks where they said, "Oh yes, everything is going to be. It's like the logic is tight, everything is sound. It's all gonna come together, and you'll see how it all fits in." It's like, no, we're not. You're not. Shouldn't have told us. I'd be curious for folks, if anyone out there, I really would like to know. Someone who watched Lost became very disenchanted with it, but did watch it till the end and whatever. I maybe out of spite at the end, I was spite watching it. But if you went back and never really heard of Lost or interacted with Lost, interfaced with Lost, and then came and just watched it, binge watched it or watched it on streaming and got to, I'm curious how you felt about it, because there's a lot of it where in the moment, there was all that drama that was, and just not even want to call it drama, stuff playing around the show. That was part of the moment. I mean, I remember going to bars to like watch Lost. Like they had like Lost viewing parties at bars. And I went a few times and watched Lost at some places like that. And all the stuff, but then also the kind of the drama around the producers and stuff the producers would say about the show and people kind of breaking down all this stuff. But when you want, now in retrospect, you just pull it up on your streaming, whatever streaming service. I don't know what streaming service on to watch it. It's a totally different experience because all this stuff is just, it's not there. You don't have the fun stuff, which is when these seasons would end and you had to wait for the next season and, what are they going to do? It just, everything just rolls on to the next season kind of thing. And then, but also all that stuff around. So I'd be curious if it's a different experience, if you felt differently about it, either good or bad. Because I don't know what your expectations are watching Lost now versus what we were when we kind of got into it, and then thinking on the uptick. And then if you got disenchanted with like I did, then on the downtick, vegetables doubling down on the island. You did dig the hole. I appreciate that you are earnestly standing in that hole. We'll see how deep it is, or if it's truly is a mound. It truly is your mound of dread. All right, so we have some. I'm not gonna go through the spells. I don't know if these are different than our ye old spells, but we got them right. Hey, look, kudos to them for including spells, their own custom spells. I don't feel the need to read through them. Their spells. Some are probably great. Some are probably just replacements for other things, but that's all good. I'll give them credit for Creeping Doom as a spell name, though. And that plant door seemed kind of cool, actually. The caster becomes intangible to living or freshly dead plants, allowing them to pass undeterred. Oh, okay. It's really more plants without trait. I was kind of hoping that you made a dimension door, but the door is made out of plants, like trees or things would curve into an arch and it would make a doorway for you. So not what I thought it was, but still, it's cool. Got some illusionist spells. Magic user spells. Okay, we have artifacts. Taryn said they watched it and was airing and left them very bitter. Yeah, I think there were a lot of us in that camp. I'm in that same camp. But I am really curious if you take away that part of it, or you take away that disappointment. Something fell in the background. I don't know what it is. You take away the disappointment and stuff, and then now you watch it kind of clean. Does it come across differently? I bet it does. I bet it's probably better now than it was back then. Or at least different. Lost, that is. Visual Festival's going to try to dig themselves on the island. You got to start in the crater of Mount Dread and see if you can dig your way down and out. Could happen. All right, so we have artifacts, ancient magical constructs created long ago by unknown immortals, priceless and indestructible. Even the simplest of them are greatly cherished. So they're not. So they could be crafted objects such as swords or armor. Basically, magic items, I guess. All right, so every time you want to use one of these, which I guess this differentiates it from yield magic item, you have to roll a percentage on the artifact use chance of success table. If you make that roll, then the effect is granted. If you fail, instead getting a positive. So use an example. You get a bonus to your attack because of your magic swords, but you first have to roll on the chance of success chart. Let's say you was a +4 to attack, right? This is a +4. I don't know, to use generic terms. This magic sword gives me a +4 to attack. Okay, great. Roll on the artifact use table. If I succeed, I get my +4. If I fail, now I'm at -4. I don't know if I'm not sure I like that. And it's not that I care that you might get the bad ability, but I wouldn't want to do it for things like they're giving like these things are like ability, score, armor, attack, damage, save. I'm fine if it's like to cast a spell. I think that's actually the one that I would say it works best for. If it's just for so there are two things I don't like about this. Number one, every time I use this thing, if I'm in combat and it's got a bonus to attack, I got to make an extra die roll every time. And then I guess we'll see at the table how often it's going to fail. And then some percentage of that it's going to fail. You know. So here we go. At first level. Okay, this is kind of interesting. So it depends on your level, which I kind of dig. So you're a low level clown, you end up with a powerful item, it ain't working for you. This feels like a little bit like, the One Ring, right? You got the One Ring, it makes you invisible. Frodo, the ring will turn you invisible. Like you got that unlocked. That's just always on. That's fine. But the ring can do obviously a bunch more than that. But you're not getting to it. You're, at this point in like Lord of the Rings lore, probably that 1% is even more than you get. There's a 0% chance that Frodo is unlocking the ability to dominate part of the ring. You're just not getting it. Now, Galadriel, maybe that's not even generous enough at 50%. But so I kind of like that. Power level, you got to be able to be kind of a similar power level to be able to do it. 50% seems kind of low at your like max level, but whatever. We don't know what the kind of abilities we're talking about at those power levels. But I wouldn't use this for just some basically modifiers. Like spell or kind of special powers. Yeah, that tracks. Just to get a plus something to attack, it better be like plus 1,000,000 or something. Because other than that, like what is that? It's not like if you have a ring of protection +2, and to get that +2, I got to roll, and I only have a 50% chance of it working, and then if it fails, I get a -2. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm not playing that game in combat if I'm level 1 or 2 or whatever level 1. Heck no. I'm not rolling that die, and it might help me, but it might actually make me easier to get hit. Heck no. No, son. I'll just leave that thing in my pouch until I get to maybe level 3, where it's at least 70% chance. All right, you can generate some random artifacts, so that's good. And we have some example artifacts. So Amulet of the Stormcaller, it's power level 6 and controls weather. But what is the inverse of controlling weather? So here's the other problem. It fails. The referee decides. Okay, so on a spell failure, the referee decides whether the spell is reversed, affects the caster instead of the range, ends before its duration, or otherwise fails. And the higher the power level, the more disastrous. So what? But okay, so that's all great to know. But what the heck? What would we call the inverse of control? I guess we'd have to say is what. I guess it's not enough, right? What is the controlling weather trying to do? And then we got to reverse that effect, I assume, or make it like if I was trying to move the storm away from us, the storm is now on us, or it's intensified, something like that. So I guess it's just how you have to do it. For these things, I don't mind it. It's cool. And it seems like what they're doing is, if I had to guess, right, we're not getting uses. There are no charges. It just does it. you can do it. But then you've got that thing holding over you, which I'm not averse to because I kind of like playing with that sort of you're making a risk reward kind of dealing. But I don't know. And we get some monsters. I'm gonna skip the monsters, but we have them. So you got them. You got some dolphins. Got some. Oh, look at that guy. See a gremlin? What is that? Fairy? No, it can't be a fairy. Is it a dragonian? Yeah. Lesser cousins of true dragons with no breath weapon, human-sized and stands upright. Usually serve chaotic dragons. That's kind of cool. Kind of like an oversized kobold, maybe, or at least modern kobold. We got the mist dragons. Oh, look, even the mist dragons are kind of cute. Very How to Train Your Dragon kind of thing. Actually, that whole dragon riding thing is kind of How to Train Your Dragon, and that picture makes me think even more that's what they want. Look going for. So we're in the monsters, we're in the troops, we got all that stuff, we got some animals. This is all good, but just not, it's there. It's good that it's there, but it's not notable enough that I want to read through it. So you have some quick monster stats. If you just need some monsters, this is kind of nice. You just need some monsters. You can pick what hit dice and then just take that row and go. That's good. And then either no special abilities or special abilities. I like that. We have some adventure seeds. Welcome to the mist. Welcome to the rock. Welcome to the mist. The adventurers accompany a navigator on a seaworthy vessel to deliver a party of 3 to 6 newly found to a village in the northern pasture lands. Interesting. So in this case, they are not welcome to the mist. They are actually helping people get full. Where are the pasture lands? Oh, there they are. Presumably found out here. Bring them to the mist. We still haven't gotten a sense of how big this place is. I feel like that's an oversight. And I kind of wish they had put the settlements. They don't tag any settlements on here. Maybe there's another map. I know there's another map in the kit. In the download, but I didn't download it because I thought this map would do me. I think there's a bigger map. Maybe the bigger map has some of the scaling and things on it that we want, or I would want to see. But we don't. But we do get some little things, and just whether we get the seeds. So, okay, we got some NPCs. We know it's a waterborne adventure. We know what region it's in, the Coral Islands, which are not listed. Womp womp. I'm going to say we're talking out here, but that's an oversight. List the Coral Islands. I'm only presuming that because it's the islands that are right offshore from the pasture lands. Visible Vegetable says cute dragons don't make sense unless they evolved with human beings. They're apex predator. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know there's that thing with pets. Kind of pet animals have evolved to be more cute over time. But I don't know that we were ever the apex predator over, say, cats. We just developed into a mutually beneficial. That's what I've read about the history of cats. I'm a big cat fan. We were never the apex predator of cats, but cats kind of evolved to be mutually beneficial with humans. I think the first cats intersected with humans when settlements started, people started settling down and kind of the edges of the steppes, let's say, in the Mesopotamia areas, that area. And we started putting up granaries and such. And cats were attracted to the critters that we were attracting through having granaries and such. And we became mutually beneficial. We did not tame cats. I don't think we were ever considered the apex predator of, say, the house cat. Yes, magic could also do it. So I think there are reasons. And I think the fact that these dragons developed to be kind of working in conjunction with humans could explain it. It's just a picture. I don't know that means that the dragons have to look that way at your table. It's just a picture, but it's still cute. And yeah, and in world where you have dragon, world where we have dragons and magic and weirdness, I don't know that we need a reason. Okay. Interesting little tip. Another little factoid about cats. The house, so a couple things. Big cats can't purr. Little cats can't roar. That's one thing. Another thing is cats only meow after they're kittens, so after kittenhood, to try to communicate with people. They don't meow amongst themselves. They get all their, pheromones and body language and everything. They don't feel they need to do it. But cats meow when they're adults because they're with people, and they recognize that we don't catch their signals. A couple cat tidbits for you. So these things are nice, right? They're very short. They're not going to make a whole adventure for you, but they give you the seeds of one, I guess, which is what they're trying to do. get a little bit of a background as to what you're doing. We get some encounter tables, presumably we're getting them. These would be water encounters, and we would have to do that. I wouldn't say it's much of an adventure. There's no twist. The challenge is could just be, oh, we started here on this hex with this little island, and now we tick back here to the nearest pastureland settlement. Though again, I wish they would have put the settlements on here. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know whether there's just because they figure we're going to place our own settlements. I don't know. But there is a bigger map. Unfortunately, I don't have it. Let me see. Do I have the ability to get to it quick? I have my drive-through. Let's see if I go to drive-through and I go to Land of Mist. Oh, there's a preview too. Okay, so we have. Look at this real quick. All right. Okay, so this one, no, it's a bigger map that's got prettified on the edges. No settlements. So it's kind of BYO settlement. Bring your own BYOS, bring your own settlement. Unfortunately. Because we don't know anything of the demographics or anything about anything. So we get some more of these. Then we get some stories of the mist. Okay, so these are adventures. I'm not going to spoil these. Let me know. So I'll leave this up to you. You guys let me know in the comments and elsewhere. Do you want to go through these stories of the mist? I'm just going to kind of scroll through. They have them. I really want to see if there's any. I feel like that's. Oh, wait a minute. Is this from the one? Okay, this is an adventure. And now here we have the map. No settlements. Oh, yeah, that's a bummer. All right, let me zoom back up. I gotta do my due diligence. So we got some enlightened animals. That's cool. Using with old school, whether using with story advanced, we got appendix. We got the OGL. Okay. Did I miss it? So we get the world, the land, the regions, mist. Yeah, we got that. We talked about the mist. We got the peoples of the mist. We have the communities. So we know there are communities of people here. Badland Bees, the Drow, the Elven Islanders, and the Coral Islands, which for some reason they don't. Am I missing it? Oh, the Coral Islands are way over here. Whoa, okay, so I missed that. Are those Coral Islands all the way across? All right, that might have been my goof, but the pasture lands are over here. Are we saying that you're escorting people from here all the way over here? I feel like I would have. This whole thing must be the Coral Islands. I'm guessing. But otherwise, that seems weird. Why would we ferry some people all the way down over here as opposed to going right here? I'm not sure. I mean, maybe this is just. I don't know. Island hopping adventures could be. But we have the Wee Warriors. Yeah, wow. That's unfortunate. Because one of the things so we're looking at this. So I guess we're at the end. So we've gone fairly over time. But we got to the end of Land of Mist. So if I was gonna look at it like, okay, so obviously I haven't played it as a setting. It's a little bit less than I would like. We've got a physical map. Great. And we have some things that are on the map, which is also great. Peoples, creatures, things. But part of what I want out of a setting are the cultures, the kingdoms, if you will, that social, that organizational level. And we just don't have it. We know that there are folks on this island or continent. We don't know a size. So I need a scale. Maybe I can assume 6 mile hexes. But I don't know. Maybe that's a bad assumption. I don't know. This is where I would just tell me at one point, hey, it's estimated to be X and so miles across, X and so mile, whatever. Right? Give me some dimensions. Tell me how big the hexes are. Hey, RPG Grandma. Because otherwise, I can't tell. Could be big, could be small. Just can't tell. Give me some. And the other thing that would help, it wouldn't totally solve the problem, but where are the settlements? Where are the cities? Where are the capitals? How is this thing politically defined? we've got these peoples, and I think I recall when I said on Friday that I felt like the regions were great, but they're just kind of okay, so these are regions ecologically. That's fine, that's good. And now we have these peoples, but I remember thinking like, these aren't really cultures so much as some people are cosmopolitan, some people are pastoralists. Like, okay, I get that, but like, who are the cultures? And we never get them. Cosmopolitans, citizens of large cities across the land. Where are the cities? I kind of need them. I kind of want them. Now, yeah, I could do that myself. But part of me, if I'm buying a setting book, if I'm going to buy a setting book, I want the cities. I want the cultures. Because if I have to invent all those myself, then why do I need the setting book? Because at the moment, what this ends up being is a book that's got some potentially good. So what do we have with this book, right? If we take away the setting stuff, we can go back. Let me flip back to it. What have we got here? We have got, I'm just going to page back here. We've got some character classes. That's great. Some character species. That's great. Some options to play. Also good. Got some procedures for underwater adventuring. That's fine. We got rules for dragon riding. That's good. And we got the runes for spells. We got that. But I think the big thing that I want is the setting part. Enlightened monsters, this stuff's been great. But that's like a little, I mean, granted, it's okay. Look, let's put in perspective. The PDF is $12. So I think that's value for money. I think it's good. I don't think this is not valuable for money. It's $12. You want to compare it to a carcass crawler. I don't know if you can get to are they even available? I don't know what like a carcass crawler Zine. I don't know. Issue 1, how much is that? $7.50. I think it's comparable. Okay. New races, new classes, weapons, fighters, like, yeah, that's fine. And I think if I go, whoops. Oh, where am I going? Stop. Backing me up. Stop it. If I go back to Land of Mist, I don't know why it backed me up that far, but I don't have a problem with that. Really, and now I'm back into the new one. Really, the deal for me is my initial thing of like what I'm really looking for is the setting. And the setting is just too light. I don't want to have to make all the cities and the settlements. If I have an adventure saying, hey, we're dropping these settlers off in the pasture lands, where in the pasture lands? I got to come up with if I'm starting off like, oh, great, I bought this book. And yeah, let's just do this first adventure to get the party into it. And hey, it's got it. Great. Where am I going? I don't have anything. I don't even have any settlements. I don't know who lives here. I got to do all that myself. Then then what are you giving me? Because I can create the pasture lands in about 5 minutes. Like I can pull up, a hexographer, worldographer, and I can bust out a continent or an island with terrain. And what I want out of the setting is all this other stuff. And you have it like the stuff that, visible vegetable, does not like the mist. I'm fine with the mist. Okay. It's a little bit, look, it's tropey. That's fine. People are going to go, we're playing Ravenloft, whatever. It's fine. That's good. I'm fine with it. I like that they gave it a little bit of originality with the Mind of the Mist. That's cool, but they don't tell me anything more about it. So it's like, oh, this great thing. Like, what are you doing with this Mind of the Mist? Oh, nothing. That's unfortunate. The idea of the immortals living in the mind of the mist is a cool idea, but I want more out of it. I want more out of the setting. Give me more of the setting. What's going on here? You got all these, we have rules for domains, but you haven't created any domains for me. Who rules the pasture lands? I'd love to know. I just want it because that's probably primarily what I want out of this book. The setting. That's why I'm buying Land of Mist. I think if you wanted to repackage the stuff and just package all those different options and call it your Carcass Crawler or some version of that kind of zine, that's different. You go to Carcass Crawler, you're looking for a bunch of options that you can maybe use or not use that are kind of modular and put together. That's great, right? That's what Carcass Crawler is, to my understanding. That's what you're getting. You could easily package the stuff out of this book, create your own Carcass Crawler design and throw them all in there, and that would be awesome. And it would be whatever you wanted to charge for it would be worth it. But this to me is I come to this product because I want the setting, and the setting it's like the barest bones of a setting. Starting off teasing it, oh, this is good. Oh, ooh, and then it's like great. I continue was like, oh, when are we gonna figure out these things about it? Okay, all this stuff's generic. All this stuff's generic. That's fine. That's fine. But like, how does it apply to the setting? How does the setting come in? And the setting never comes in. So really, what I would like is like the setting. Like, give me and I would do with half the generic options and fill in with setting. Like, yeah, giving me some mass combat rules is fine. That's great, even. But I would rather the stuff about all the individuals, all the things going on in the setting, and dump those rules. Oh, you got rules for aquatic adventuring? That's fine. Dump it. Give me setting stuff instead. Give me the aquatic rules when you have an adventure that takes me underwater for an extended amount of time. Then give me aquatic rules. I don't need them. It was like, it's great to have in there, and it's great that you had that stuff, but it's just not what I want out of this. Not that it's in a vacuum isn't, hey, it's great, aquatic adventure rules, but it's not what I want out of this. So what is Land of Mist really is it's really the bare scaffolding of a setting with a bunch of modular rules and mechanics that you may find useful. It's not super expensive. And so I would say, again, it's $12. It's not a terrible $12. I don't think it's comparing it to what it's giving you. It's not bad, but it might just not be what you're looking for. Because the Land of Mist, here it is in its own thing, is a campaign setting. And it's not a good, that is the weakest part of it by far, is the campaign setting. The other stuff is much stronger. And I wish that they'd maybe cut out some of the stuff, even though it maybe doesn't look as good when you put up the preview. You're able to say like all these classes, all these things, rules for this A, B, C, D, E, and F. But yeah, and it's got them and they're fine. But I want the setting, and the setting unfortunately is the weakest part. And not because it's terrible, it's just because it's missing. It's just not here. Visible Vegetable says they don't hate it, it's just incomplete. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the setting, it is incomplete. Yeah, it is. There is not. I can't. If this is a setting in a book, I can't run this as a setting, or I have to create half the setting for this, because everything outside of the map and that mechanic of the mist is not here. I got peoples, but I don't really need those if I've got OSC, because I can just fill it with generic peoples, regular fantasy OSC peoples. I got terrain, and I got this mist, but the mist doesn't function that much in it. It's just there to say why you're here and why you can't leave, which is fine, but it doesn't really enter into things day to day unless you're constantly trying to leave. And then I just got some terrain and some names, and they're not, the pasture lands. That's fine, but I could AI that up in about, I could go to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, give me 5 names, give me 10 names for farming land near a coast. I'd probably get pasture land, whatever. RPG Grandma says they can just roll on tables and create a setting. Yeah, I think if you're going to buy the book, like I said, I guess the bottom line is don't buy this book for the setting. Buy it because you want these other things, which I haven't played them, so I don't know. Amazing there. They don't read as being crazy to me, so it feels like they're probably decent. But again, I haven't played it, so I don't know about any reasons where they may go astray. So if you buy this book ultimately if you want the modular pieces and that they make sense for you or they're useful for you. Don't buy this book for the campaign setting, only because the campaign setting is woefully short of what we want. John Heaton says less is more. Well, hey, John Heaton, yes. If you really want, I mean, yeah, if you're looking at it going, what I really want is I only want this kind of scaffolding, which is you do get a creation story and you get some geography and you get this mist. And if that's what you want, and of course you get things like all these races being here. Yeah, if that's what you want, then yeah, go for it. If that's all you want. But I have a feeling most people want more. Most people want more out of it than they probably get. But it's got some great rules in it. It's got some looks like rules. The dragon riding stuff alone is pretty cool. If you want kind of a How to Train Your Dragons, Dragon Riders of Pern kind of vibe to your place, then go for it. That seems pretty darn, could be a lot of fun. Pretty darn neat. If you want some other rules, like you got it. If you want some interesting takes on some of the playable species stuff, you got it. That's good. If you're looking for a setting that's going to kind of wrap it all together in a way that's kind of gameable with little prep, you don't have it, because this is going to take a bunch of prep just to get places. Not even forgetting like, oh, I need a whole bunch, like just to get places on the map to go to and connections between them. You're doing all that yourself. So, just know that going in. But it was a fun read. I'm glad I read it. I would be happy to revisit more if they what I would love, I mean, really what this needs is this needs an ongoing commitment from the authors to keep adding to this. So that would be the next thing. Like that's how you would make this. If you want to make this more of a thing, then you really got to build it out. Like I want to see, like, give me a zine on the pasture lands and some stuff in there. Give me something on the North Shores. Turn it into like your Hexes monthly kind of deal, a Hexes monthly kind of deal where you're giving me stuff, because you really need to flesh this out some. I don't necessarily need everything fleshed out from jump, but I need somewhere that I can start and kind of build off of if I'm going to use this as a setting. Like I said, if I got to do all this myself, then I'll just do the whole thing myself. The Mist, RPG Grandma likes the Mist thing. The Mist, yes. The Mist is a cool idea. It's got, I mean, their ideas in here are cool. Like it's got cool ideas, but yeah, you're going to do a lot. You're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting yourself. Unfortunately, probably more heavy lifting than I would want to do. But again, it's kind of like, where are you coming at it? Because it's still good. The value for what you're paying is still good. There's still a lot of value in here. It isn't, what it says on the tin. I always say, like, is it delivering what it says on the tin? And the answer is no, because it says it's a setting book, and it's not a good setting book. It doesn't deliver on the promise of the setting. I don't think this is enough to say that this is a fully fleshed out setting, or even just a fully developed setting. So on that point, I would say it fails, but it does deliver a lot of stuff that I think is useful. So there's where I come out. All right, folks, I've been on here long enough. If you like this and you want to get it, you can use my link in the show notes. I will mark this as promotional because this was provided for the author to me. Thanks so much for that. And I do use affiliate links. It helps raise some money for the channel. So if you use the drive through link, it does benefit me in some small way, though it doesn't hurt you. So if you feel like grabbing it, that's how you can get it, of course, or you can just go grab it by other means. And you can get it in print. I don't have a print copy or anything to show up, but you can get it apparently in, I think, soft cover and hardcover. So you can get, let's see, yep. No, okay, just so it's two soft, so standard color book and a soft. Oh no, sorry, it's just this. You can either get it in print or in print and PDF. And print and PDF is the same price, right? At least right now. So, whew. All right, folks. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye now.